Welcome back. It's time for another edition of the Sports Corner podcast. We are talking Selection Sunday as the bracket has just been released. We just broke down the southern region.
Yes.
And right now we're on our way to the western region. Let's start off with game number 1, Arizona versus Weber State.
Arizona.
Yeah, I gotta pick.
I mean, Arizona's just gonna.
I gotta pick Arizona unanimously on that one too. And by the way, our first actual podcast, we broke down just about every game. We realized that logistically speaking, as far as time constraints are concerned, that is not how we need to do this right now. So these games that we know are going to be a wash, we're just gonna skip through them as fast as we can. Now, this next game we are gonna have to break down just a little bit. Just a tad bit. Gonzaga versus Oklahoma State. Who do you have in this game and why?
First of all, I have Oklahoma State,
Okay.
and one word. Actually, it's 2 words for you. It's Marcus Smart.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
I can dig it.
I love this kid.
Yeah.
I watch this kid play. He plays with a lot of heart. He plays with a lot of passion. He plays hard. And I think he's going to take this Oklahoma State team, and he's going to take them past Gonzaga.
And let's be honest. I mean, Marcus Smart got a real bum deal with that whole fan altercation.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, that was. I mean, you have to understand. I mean, yes, to a degree, you have to keep yourself composed and not do that. But at the same time, when you got a guy yelling things that he was yelling at Marcus Smart during that game, it gets carried away.
I think I did post an article on that.
You did about fan interaction during the games. But another reason that I really like Oklahoma State in this game, and I'm gonna have a lot of people hate me after I say this, but I just got to throw it out there. I truly think the Gonzaga Bulldogs are once again way overrated this season.
Yeah,
I
agree with you.
I don't think that they deserved an A seed. Now, did they deserve to make it into the tournament? Yes, because they did hold an AP Top 25 ranking this season. I might have cut them a little short on making the tournament. I didn't give them enough credit when we were doing our pre-selection show. But at the same time, I can't sit here and say that Gonzaga deserves an 8 seed and have a clean conscience with it. This was bad. The selection committee did a bad job on this one. Gonzaga shouldn't even be playing Oklahoma State in this first round game, but they are. And I think that this WCC record, 15-3, and the overall 28-6 is a little bit of a fluke here. Oklahoma State played in a much tougher conference and played a lot tougher offseason or non-conference schedule than Gonzaga did. That just goes to show the toughness of Oklahoma State, and I really think that that's going to be the downfall of Gonzaga. It's their overrated seed.
Correct.
All right, on to the next game. Oklahoma versus North Dakota State.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, I got Oklahoma on this one too. San Diego State versus New Mexico State.
San Diego State.
I do. It's not going to be a blowout, though, is my opinion.
I'm thinking 10-12 at the most.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued, though, by the third round matchup of San Diego State and Oklahoma. I do want to see that matchup.
That'll be a good one, I think. I got to tell you, I put San Diego State on an upset alert in that one. Not a high one if they play Oklahoma, not a high one, but it's enough that they should be scared in that second or that third round.
I don't think I put them on really upset alert. I think it'll just be an entertaining game to watch.
Oh, well, no, it's definitely it'll be an entertaining game to watch. But I got to put them on just a little slight upset alert there against just a little tiny one. Next game, we definitely have to break down Baylor and Nebraska. This is a 6 versus an 11 seed, but the seeds don't show the actual talent of these teams.
Yeah, we have a 6 versus a so-called bubble team.
Yeah.
And I put that bubble in quotations there. Because Nebraska is playing in the Big Ten, let's be honest with ourselves.
That's one of the toughest conferences in basketball right now.
Right. Baylor, they somewhat dropped off. They had a really, really rough stretch there of losses to 5-7 out of their their 8-game stretch.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta understand who they played. They played Oklahoma, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, all in that stretch.
Yeah, absolutely.
All tournament teams, all very tough teams. But I still like Baylor. They beat Iowa State. They beat Kentucky. They beat Oklahoma State. Coming out of the Big 12 is tough.
It is.
The Big 12 is a tough basketball conference. But I look for Oklahoma State, or I look for Baylor to win this game, actually.
And now Baylor, I think, definitely has the edge going into this game. But let's not discredit Wisconsin.
No.
And here's why: is like we were saying, is Wisconsin is playing in literally one of the toughest conferences in college basketball right now. I'd be willing to argue the Big Ten is just as good of a conference as the ACC, maybe just a little worse. But overall, the quality of competition is tough in the Big Ten. And for Wisconsin to do what they did, this season has been a huge testament to their grit as far as on the court play goes.
Yeah, Nebraska, they have wins against Michigan State.
Yep.
They have a win against Ohio State, who I said earlier I think is seeded too high, so I won't credit them too much with it. But it's still a win against a top team in the Big Ten nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they have another win against Wisconsin. And when you beat teams like Michigan State and Wisconsin, they're hard teams to beat. That one game was at Michigan State. Like I said, they had another rough patch where they lost 6 of 7 games. They lost to Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan. That's a pretty tough stretch in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Losing to Penn State, you don't like to see it.
It happens.
But it happens. But you're right. Nebraska was a bubble team. I was glad to see them get in.
And, honestly, when you look down the Big Ten conference standings, they lost all those games to those teams, but realistically, people don't understand how close Nebraska actually was to the top 3 teams in the Big Ten. Nebraska was only 4 games out of first place. Which,
right.
That's impressive when you're talking about Michigan, Wisconsin, and Michigan State.
They're only 1 game out of second.
Yeah, they're only one. Exactly, they're only 1 game out of second place. So this Nebraska Cornhuskers team is, I think that they're going to be a little bit of a surprise. Now, I give the edge to Baylor in this game just because Baylor is such a tough team and they're the runners-up in the Big 12 conference this year. But look for Nebraska to definitely make this a good game. Definitely.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Next up, Creighton versus Louisiana Lafayette.
I'm looking at Creighton.
Yeah, I've got Creighton in this one too. Doug McDermott is just playing like a man out of his mind right now. Oregon BYU. I just want to talk about this one real quick.
Yep, go ahead.
But Oregon BYU is an interesting combination because these are 2 teams. Now, Oregon more so wasn't supposed to make it into the tournament. They were supposed to be last 4 out at one point. Now, they might have just barely eked into last 4 in that last little stretch there, but. Again, this is a battle of teams that really didn't know if they were going to make the tournament this year or not.
You know what? I was in total agreement when there's a lot of people are questioning why BYU is in this tournament. They have losses. They have losses to teams like Pepperdine, Portland, Pacific. You can't be losing these teams and expect to make the tournament, and you don't have any. I don't see any signature wins here. I don't know what the selection committee saw in BYU. I don't know why they thought they deserved a place in this tournament, but I can't even pick this game to be close because I don't even see BYU being in this game.
You see, the only reason that I could see them being in it is because they've got to win against Gonzaga this year, okay? They've got to win against Texas, who also made it into the tournament. They got to win against Stanford, who made it into the tournament. Now, again, those aren't like strong...
Texas is probably their best win.
Now, that's not a strong list of signature wins, but I will say that they're signature wins nonetheless. And I think that's the only reason that they really got the nod to make it into this tournament is because they've got a few of those wins, and for the fact that they're the 3rd highest scoring team in the nation with 84.2 points. That offense, even though they now again, I'm gonna credit this to them playing in a weak conference. They are scoring phenomenally.
I was just about to give them credit for their offense.
Overall, they've got a strong offense overall. But again, I don't like... you look down the stats here, 3rd in scoring, 6th in rebounds, 23rd in assists, 57th in field goal percentage. But look at who they're playing, as you said. They're not playing tough competition right now.
And I think their defense is going to let them down, and Oregon is going to
I really... This is another case of Gonzaga here. I think BYU wasn't overrated. I think that, them barely making it to the tournament is where they should have been. But, again, I think they're overrated. I think people are getting too hyped up about BYU.
Right.
All right, next game.
It's going to be the last game in this region, and it's Wisconsin and American.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up real quick. Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. You know what? I just want to make a point here. I love Wisconsin.
They are a great team.
I think we'll talk about this 4th number 1 seed later. I think they could have been that 4th number 1 seed regardless of losing before the Big Ten championship game.
Oh, absolutely. Wisconsin, and again, you know what I like about them is they don't have that high-flying attractiveness that a lot of teams do, and that's the reason why a lot of teams have their fan bases, just because they're exciting to watch. Even though this team is exciting to watch, but they're not high flyers, they're not flashy. This team gets the ball down the court, moves it well, and shoots well.
Yeah. Yes.
They are just a solid, fundamental basketball team, and I think that is going to carry them very far in this tournament. Again, we are going to sign off this time around. That was our wrap-up of the Western Conference for the 2014 NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament. You are listening to the official podcast of the Sports Corner. You can go to all the social media outlets, just about all of them, and find us. Just type in the Sports Corner in the search bar. Make sure you like, follow, share, whatever you have to do. Get the word out about the Sports Corner and our podcast. Coming up, we will have our next breakdown of the Midwest region, which should be a pretty good one.
Yeah,
so
this will be an interesting talk.
Absolutely. For Kyle Harstead, I'm Chris Fravel, signing off of the official Sports Corner podcast.